Look at the search efforts. Tom Foreman joins us with a little bit of a different perspective. So, Tom, can you walk us through exactly where the Andaman Islands are? We're all getting a really good lesson in geography of this entire area. Are we talking about a remote area? How close is it to other land masses?
Yeah, it's remote. A lot of things down here are remote. I'll bring in our maps here and talk about this. We zoom down to the area where this happened. Remember, this is where the plane took off to orient you from Kuala Lumpur, flew this way less than an hour. Then up here, it disappears without a trace. What followed then were all these search areas that grew out of it. First of all, the immediate search area, then the other ones that spread across here. And now we're talking about the Andamans. The Andamans are over here. They're sort of pushing up in the Bay of Bengal, headed up toward Myanmar, that sort of thing. These are actually a string of islands that go on for close to 500 miles. There are close to 500 islands. Most of them are uninhabited, and they spread out through there. The Indian government is largely searching them right now. Now, whether they'll find anything there or not is a huge question, simply because it remains conjecture. Think about what Barbara said there. Think about what everybody else has said. It remains conjecture as to whether or not the plane ever really went this way. Something seems to have shown up on some kind of signal going that way, but there's no proof that it's this plane. That's one of the reasons so much emphasis still remains on the original search area over toward the east, Maggie.
And you're exactly right. It is still conjecture, and yet we're pinning so much hope that this new avenue will yield something where everything else has failed. Tom, can you tell us more about the tracking data they're using?
Yeah, let me bring in a model of this plane and talk about all the ways that this thing can communicate with the land. Obviously, what you'd really love to hear is something from the radios up front. We'd just like them to say something that would have given a clue, but that didn't happen. The radios went silent shortly before the plane disappeared. What about the transponders? They're up underneath the front area in the avionics bay. Those also went silent. They say they were turned off. In any event, there's no signal from them. We don't know what it was. What about all the stuff in the back of the plane? If you spin it around and you talk about all that in the rear of the plane, which is where they have the flight data recorder, the voice recorder, tremendous amount of important information there, but that's off limits. It doesn't transmit. You'll only have that if they find the plane somewhere. So what we're talking about in this case comes from what's called the ACARS system. We've heard a lot about the engines reporting performance. That's what ACARS is for. It sends signals out constantly telling people on the ground how well the engines are performing, how much fuel they're using, things like that. But what we seem to be talking about in this case is some individual pings that suggested the ACARS system may have still been working in some fashion, trying to make contact. Not complete packets of data, at least that's what our understanding is. That these are just little pings that suggest a plane was out there doing something. But we'll have to see if those are real, if there's any value to them. As you said, everybody's so desperate for some kind of information here. But again, it's all speculative at this point. And heaven knows, over 7 days, we've had a lot of leads that have gone nowhere, Maggie.
That is exactly right, but we appreciate that 3D look at the massive efforts to find this missing plane. Tom, thanks. And massive is right. There are now 57 ships, 48 aircraft, and 13 nations all working together to find the missing airliner. But investigators are also turning to radar data as part of the search effort. Rescue teams have been taking a close look at communication signals from the Boeing 777. Renee Marsh has more.
Inside the cockpit of a Boeing 777, there are multiple ways pilots communicate with the ground. The ACARS system automatically beams down information about the health of the plane. Until today, we thought the last transmission was 1:07 a.m. local time. Now there's word it may have been transmitting data hours beyond that.
Give me details. What kind of information is being beamed down?
Commonly what's downloaded is engine parameters, temperatures, amount of fuel burn, any maintenance discrepancies.
Airlines monitor the real-time data. Another way to communicate, radio. All right, good night. The final call from the pilots as Flight 370 left Malaysian airspace. A common phrase when changing controllers.
We are in a dive here.
In Alaska Airlines Flight 261, when the plane dived out of control, pilots radioed what was happening. But no mayday from Flight 370.
In the event of an emergency, is communication secondary?
Yeah, the first thing is to fly the airplane, navigate the airplane, then communicate. That's the order of precedence.
A third way to communicate, by transponder. 1:21 a.m., Flight 370's transponder signal goes dead. It transmits the plane's location, speed, altitude, and position.
Is there any good reason that a pilot would want to switch that off?
Clearly, if all the power is lost to the aircraft or something happened to take out that part of the electronics, the electrical system, yeah, that would turn it off. But certainly one aspect of turning it off is because you don't want to be seen.
Radar tracks Flight 370 flying for another 9 minutes. At 1:30 a.m. local time, the plane vanishes. But the one piece of the plane that is likely still communicating, the flight recorders. Only sonar equipment can detect their pings, and time is of essence. The signal only lasts for about 30 days. Renee Marsh, CNN.